Nights, it's Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock, Channel 95. We're back for one more show of the neighborhood news. For the past 5 years, we've been on the air on this channel at this time and weekly bringing you always and inviting guests to talk to us about all different things on our neighborhood and our city. Today, we have with us a city council that left the city council seat for a while, now is back again, and Steve Camara. Thank you for coming to my show.
A pleasure to be with you. I was here in a different capacity some 5 years ago when you first got started, and I was doing a show too.
Yes.
So yeah, it's good to be here at FRC TV. Good to see you. Good to see Keith Tebow and the rest of the staff here at FRC TV, and they do a great job.
So you're visiting the
coming
home.
back to the home.
Visiting home.
Yeah, visiting home, coming back.
Steven, I mean, it's a lack of things that I want to talk about. I know you are a city council, so as a city council, we have a lot of issues going on the city that we would like to cover. But you are very involved too with national politics too, and I would love to probably have book you for a show so we can just cover the problems and what the country is facing.
Sure, we consider them challenges.
Exactly, challenges. But for this show, we're going to stay locally and we're going to talk about Fall River and the challenges that Fall River have and facing. You are sitting for the second year, right?
This is the second year of this term, yes.
For this term, and it's been a tough term, huh? A lot of
it's been transitional, and I think probably since Mayor Flanagan assumed office, which interestingly was a campaign I was involved with as a candidate when Will Flanagan was elected. I was a member of the city council. That was the last time I had been on the city council, 2008, 2009. It was then a tumultuous time. There was a Mayor Correa at that time. Who unfortunately had a failed administration. He may not want to know that or hear that, but it was an administration that basically was crushed by sometimes experiences beyond his ability. In that case, it was a lack of funding. It was cuts from the state. He was trying to manage a city that just didn't have the resources necessary. And although there were several of us that stepped up, including members of the city council at that time, I think Ray Haig and Kathy Ann Viveris, saying, that approach, his approach, was not working. The people chose the new guy. They wanted a fresh face, and Will Flanagan became that fresh face. And it seems like since then, the city hasn't quite settled in on where it wants to go. From Will Flanagan, we went to, after a recall, we went to Mayor Sutter, as we know. And Mayor Sutter sort of got drowned by his $10 per unit fee that he wanted to charge for every person that disposes of trash, and even those that may not dispose of trash, because it was a household fee. And people didn't like that, and that it was attributed to Mayor Sutter losing to the new mayor that we now have is Jazel Correa. And Jazel has been on a rocky road, but I think he certainly has been innovative. He certainly has been someone who's willing to put out new ideas and hopes that people will embrace them. His first approach, of course, was privatization of the DPW, a position that I did not share with him. But I did end up voting for the budget of the city because I also didn't think that we should sacrifice the operation of our city government for a position that clearly had the majority vote and also clearly had his leadership in that he was the final decider in making a determination as to whether or not we should move ahead with privatization. So he was given that opportunity, and I believe it has succeeded to a great extent. And I have been perceived to be supportive of the mayor. I do believe that when we have a mayor, that we should give him the benefit of the doubt as often as possible. I've not been supportive of everything he's done, but I do believe that this mayor has tried to put the city back on track. And so be it. The people of Fall River will decide in another few months whether they want to continue this mayor or continue with a different mayor. And there certainly will be challenges that he'll face, and challengers. There's already one announced candidate against him. I expect there'll be more than one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll be.
And we'll see where it goes.
And one of the changes that we've been seeing, especially since Flanagan, is how a small number of people make it personal. And this is, I think that's what's been interfering with politics, is a small, because it's always a small number that voice, that try to show their voice, but they're not the majority.
Now, when you think of that, you're thinking of that small number within the council or within the community?
The community, on the community, because I think this way. I don't vote for a city council because city council has this color of a computer. I don't vote because a city council dies here. I don't vote because a city council
I don't do that.
Has long hair. I don't vote for that. I don't care how the person is and what the person does on his private life, as long as they're not, a criminal. Mm-hmm. What the person does with their private life, I have nothing to do with it. I elected a city council to work for me, to voice my concerns, to decide for my in my behalf. That's what I vote for a council. Mm-hmm. When the council leaves that seat and is not in charge or not making a decision, I have nothing to do with that person. Personally, they can do whatever they want. And what I'm being seen now is, it's not a reason why we should not vote for that particular council because he did this or he voted this way. No, is don't vote for him because he has a long hair. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That has nothing to do. The more you're telling me not to vote for Steven Camara because he has a long hair, more Steven Camara is going to get my vote. Because that's not enough for me not to give you the seat. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And that's what I'm being seen a lot lately, is just personal attacks, trying to just bring that person down by their looks and the way, And it's funny, it's adults doing to adults, and we want not to happen that in schools.
Sure.
Kids doing to kids.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I'm saying?
But if you look back, I was my first initial entry into an interest in politics was as a very young man when John Kennedy ran for office against Richard Nixon. And I remember even back then that, John Kennedy is such a handsome, debonair man with a beautiful wife from Massachusetts. And that was an appeal across the country to elect this vibrant senator from Massachusetts. And it was because of his good looks, many say, that was the difference between defeat and victory. So, it was that famous debate that Nixon and Kennedy had that, that people say that if you just listened to the debate, Nixon would have won. But when you watched it on TV, Kennedy won. And it was probably because of his good looks. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not appealing to people based upon my good looks, but I think that ever since then, and it's just the nature of politics, that that plays a role in what makes people determine on who they want to vote for. And it's unfortunate because it's not why people should vote for an elected official based upon their good looks, or their long hair or their short hair. It's funny. I decided not to cut my hair recently, and I was jokingly saying I would cut it again when I could elect a president I could be proud of. And I wasn't too happy with the presidential choices
so you're going to keep
this past November.
So now people know why you.
But I
hair.
also don't know for sure if I want to live with longer hair for 4 years. So don't be surprised if one day you'll see me buzzed out, because I know I used to be a buzzed out, but it's funny. I'm retired. I get to do what I want to do pretty much with my own schedule. Of course, I have responsibilities that require I do certain things, but I figured in retirement I want to play a little role, so let the hair grow for a while, see what it wants to do, and see what it looks like. I haven't had this hair this long since probably the first time I ran for office.
So what I want to say is, don't think that you're losing votes because you have a long hair.
You know what? Frankly, at this stage of my life, I am so happy and proud and thankful to the voters of Fall River, and thank you, voters, for giving me an opportunity to serve you for the many years I've served you. I've now become one of the senior members of the community that have served over 5 decades. My first election was back in the 70s, so for the 70s, 80s, 90s, 00s, and now into the teens, I've had the opportunity to come to the voters and ask them to give me an opportunity to voice my support for their needs. I've always been supportive of the people's needs, and I've always been supportive of our neighborhood needs. I'm very active in my neighborhood, both the neighborhood where I live and the neighborhood where I have investments, Lower Highlands, historic downtown, and the Highlands. And I've been supportive of every neighborhood association in its efforts to improve its neighborhood, because I've always felt that that's what an elected official needs to do. It needs to be on the side of the people, and I'm a people kind of supportive candidate. And as long as people appreciate that kind of independent voice, then I'm someone that fits.
Since we are talking about neighborhoods, you think this administration is being given the attention to the neighborhoods? To me, Flanagan was really a mayor that every little move, he will contact the neighborhoods. Every press conference that he will do, we will get invitations to be there. We were not always there, because sometimes people work and everything, but we always get an invitation to be there. He was really a mayor that would like to hear our voice and make their own decision, but they would like to hear what we think about. From the first month that he got in office, and you remember this, we had an interview. We interviewed Chief Hussein. Was a bunch of our neighborhoods, I think was 5 or 6 neighborhoods, that sit and interview the candidates for chief of police.
We were right on Tucker Street at the Senior Drop-In Center.
Exactly.
Making that happen.
So with years, and Flanagan out of there, I think that we lost our voice. And do you think this administration gives a voice or hears the neighborhoods?
Well,
now as president of a neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, co-chair of my neighborhood association with Jim Botley, we co-chair the Lower Highlands Historic Downtown Neighborhood. No, it has not been as attentive as it was during the Flanagan administration. It's probably more attentive than it was during the Sutter administration. Correa, the new Correa, Jaisal Correa, is somewhere in between the two. I certainly think there's room for improvement. And I think there's the key thing, the key factor in the Flanagan success was Perry Long. There was really no one as attentive to us as Perry Long. During that period of time when he served as neighborhood coordinator, there wasn't really a week, surely, almost every day he would be in touch or we'd be in touch with him. So he was very attentive, and that represented Flanagan's interest, was to have somebody like Perry Long. I think Monica Souza, who's currently the neighborhood coordinator, is good. She's smart. She's loyal to the mayor. I think she needs to become more attentive to reaching out to the neighborhood leaders, and likewise neighborhood leaders need to have accessibility to her very easily so that she's responsive to our needs. So there's some improvement. I've told the mayor that I've been supportive of him, but I also think he needs to make improvement in certain areas. One of those areas is neighborhood outreach.
One of the critiques that you have from a lot of voters is the fact that you always vote in favor of the mayor. Every thing that the mayor brings to the city council floor, you attempted to vote yes. For those people, what did you have to say?
Well, let me say, first of all, on his key issue, which was privatization, I fought him tooth and nail. I did not believe he was correct in eliminating those public positions. I've always been a believer that public employees should have primary responsibility for carrying out public responsibility. So I did not support him on that. So from his first major issue, I've been an opponent of his. However, I do believe that we have one mayor. Unless that mayor is doing something that is diametrically opposed to what I believe in, he's going to get my support, because we have one mayor, one chief executive. I think there's sometimes our councilors, or even sometimes the council body in full, that wants to pursue its own agenda and act as if they were the mayor, or individually or collectively the mayor. And there's only one mayor. The one thing I've learned in my service, that you can't be confrontational and an opponent of the mayor based upon your own particular point of view, that there's only one chief executive. For instance, recently I was surely accredited with being supportive of him on his effort to transfer $20,000 within his own budget from expenses, from salaries to expenses, because he wanted to pursue his marketing program. The council were opposed to it for many different reasons. This was money within his own budget. It's the mayor's department's money. He should be able to spend his money as he chooses, and yet the council was vehement in opposition, and they eventually won, even though it went flip-flopped both ways, because there was two councilors who were on one side of the issue one meeting, they were on the other side of the issue on the next meeting, and ended up taking away his opportunity to make that transfer. So he still has that money, but he just can't use it the way he chooses to use it. Eventually, I think he will use it the way he chooses to use it, because it is within his budget. But we spent hours talking about that, and I supported him thoroughly for that. And generally, I do support him in his effort to move this city forward, because as I re-emphasize, there's one mayor that wants to move the city forward. Currently on the OED, FROED effort versus the Redevelopment Authority, that's going to be an issue that's going to consume quite a bit of our city's time in the next several months. He has his own vision, his own plan, his own way of wanting to move the city forward from an economic development perspective. Do we oppose him? Do we let him move forward as he chooses? The Redevelopment Authority will be the first group to make that decision, because they have to take a vote. But maybe this is an example where maybe I can show a disagreement. I don't believe Bill Kenny, who's chairman of the, and we're getting into nuts and bolts that maybe the public doesn't want to get too involved in, but Bill Kenny, who's a good friend of mine, is planning director in our city. He's also chairman of the Redevelopment Authority. And as chairman of the Redevelopment Authority, he can't vote on this issue because he's a city employee, and the mayor appoints city employees. He shouldn't be as chairman of the Redevelopment Authority, as far as I'm concerned. And I've relayed this to the mayor, and I've relayed this to Mr. Kenny, that I think that Mr. Kenny should step down. Not because he's not doing a good job as Redevelopment Authority, but I don't want a 5-member board to be absent of one of its members participating in a decision because he's a city employee. So, you know, I would go on record and here, because I've not stated this publicly, the newspaper asked all my colleagues what they thought the other day, but they didn't ask me. But that's okay, because I think the Herald News is pretty much the stale news, or the sterile news, or the...
Maybe they don't like you here too.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've made it known to them that I think they spend more time with promoting fake news than they do promoting real news. But nonetheless, you know, I think that the redevelopment authority should operate under a 5-person board. So if the mayor wants my opinion, and I've related to him through his I don't know what Faust Fiore's position is now, but I've related it through Faust to let the mayor know that I think that Bill Kenny ought not to be on that board. And so I'll take my positions against the mayor on very critical and important issues that I disagree with him on, but I will support him overall, and being that he's the chief executive.
Okay. And with 7 minutes left, one more thing that I would like to talk to you about is the fact, and we know, I mean, we chair boards and neighborhood boards and everything. Personally, I need to have a good communication and a good relationship with my board. With that said, they will feel very comfortable supporting me when I present stuff to be approved, because I have my one-on-one communications. This will come for vote. This is my opinion. At the end of the day, it's your decision. But I would like to do this. I would like to try this. This is going to cost me this much money. We can make so much money. We can lose so much money. So by the time that we meet, I already have those conversations. I already know which concerns are for some board members, that I try to get the answers for them before I go and ask a vote. My organization, we put last year 54 events. And all of them, I got the support of the board. When I present a new event, they could, and they have concerns. They say, Carlos, I don't know if we're gonna lose money on this. It's the first time. I don't know if people's gonna come, you know, but they give me a vote of trust because I ask their opinion. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to the vote, we don't have a 2-hour conversation about it, because they all know my position and they all come with their idea. Mm-hmm. I don't have all the votes. I need the votes to pass, just like the city council. I have, when we bought the school, when we made the decision to buy the school, I have 2 votes no. And you know something, I respect their votes. They have their concerns, and they said, Carlos, I will be voting against. Mm-hmm. That's fine. And I respect you for this, because the next vote, you're gonna be with me. You know what I'm saying? So, do you really think that the city council have that communication with the administration?
To an extent. The mayor does call us in regularly. There's been, unfortunately, many times, too many times, where those meetings have to be canceled, dates have to be changed because of other commitments. But he has reached out to me, and I'm sure to other councilors, not necessarily to get our how we want to vote, because unlike you and me as a neighborhood leader, we can have these conversations with our board members. When you're a mayor and a city council, there's constant issues concerning transparency and open meeting law violations and discussion of issues and getting commitments. So there isn't that kind of thing that happens with the mayor and the council about getting a vote. I don't think he's ever asked me to guarantee him a vote on a particular issue, because he recognizes that that borders on something that would not be ethical or not be within the purview of the open meeting law or the intent of the open meeting law.
And I'm not comparing the two.
Right.
I'm just saying, I'm just talking about the communication.
Yeah, so as I
Without
said,
getting a vote, but at least trying to find out where you're standing right now.
Sure.
What is your concern?
yeah, but there is the difference that when as neighborhood leaders, we can get a particular point of view from a board member or from one of our colleagues in our neighborhoods that you can't get from a mayor and a city council because of open meeting law, ethic issues, transparency. The mayor generally will lay out his point of view and then ask, are there any questions? He won't lay out his point of view and say, how do you feel? Are you going to be with me on this or against me on this? He doesn't do that. He'll lay out his point of view and ask if there are any questions concerning his point of view. Then the meeting ends and we go to our council chamber and we vote as we choose, and he doesn't necessarily know what that vote's going to be. I think that's the nature of government, that you need to be attentive to that. I can't say anything more about it. You know, that's
Because one of the things that the votes know, one of the things that the votes know I've been noticing is, I don't know anything about. He never called me. This is the first time I'm hearing about. Mm-hmm. So I really think that we cannot blame them for not, giving a vote or for tabling something to get more information. And I think that's what we've been having problems. They've been table a lot of stuff because they need more information. They don't have the information to give to vote. Yeah, when the mayor is upstairs waiting for the vote on that day. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I think the fault lies sometimes in between. Sometimes the councilors don't call him. Mm-hmm. If they have questions concerning a particular point of view, remember, I just said the mayor will say, are there any questions after he presents his point of view? If the councilors have questions about his point of view, there is an opportunity for them to get his opinion on that particular issue. If they choose not to get it and then come before the council and want to play like they don't have all the information, maybe the fault lies with the councilors for not answering the question that he initially opposed.
But on the other side, Steve, it's no excuse for the administration to be asked the questions and say, I don't have the information, I need to get back to you with the information. It's no reason for that. Because when you want to do a project, you have everything on your head. You know the numbers. I mean, you could not be a point into the dollar, but you have an idea, right? So every time that the councils ask something to the administration through Cathy Ann, she don't have the information. Then the judge don't have the information. So, I mean, how can we run a meeting if we don't have the information? Yeah. So
well, you
need to bring it back.
You have a good point. You have a good point. But on the other hand, I will say, particularly to Mrs. Viveris, she comes prepared. She comes prepared to answer the questions that she anticipates. Sometimes there are questions that are out of left field and they're being posed to her, and she always says, I'll get back to you, and she always does get back to us.
And sometimes it's tough to have the answer after a 4-hour meeting too.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is.
Steven, thank you for coming.
Thank you. And
I would love to invite you back again.
Well, we'll be happy to come back again, Carlos, and thank you for doing the good work you do and keeping this program alive. It's very important.
Thank you.
Thank the voters of Fall River for allowing me to be a participant as a councilor. Look forward to our future together.
Thank you, Steven. Good job. Thank you.